Danielle Rubenstein, the founder and CEO of Retail Resilient. Car dealers all over the country love working with us, and let me tell you why. We have two product solutions that they absolutely love using. The first product solution is a Facebook and Instagram school where we build out a curriculum for salespeople and managers. We teach them how to create new car offers, used car offers, and get pre-approved offers. We also have a campaign management program where we generate leads for them, and then they do what they do best, they sell cars. So we train their sales staff on how to handle social media leads. Our car dealers typically say to us, I had the highest grossing month in the history of my business. I'm up double in my volume year over year. We even had a client the other day that told me that he was absolutely blessed because he loved our customer service. Everyone at Retail Resilient works remotely from home. I hire only car people from all over the country, so I hire all A players. They're really good at what they do, and we absolutely love helping car dealers. So give us a try, give us a shout. You know, any opportunity, we would love to see if we're a fit to work with you.
Our first birthday.
Just for you.
Grazie.
Don Homer, my son, he has trouble with the...
Molto bene. Obrigado. Look at this country. You are gay. Dime? What's a dime? Oh, a dime. That bird! He's killing the elephant! Stop him!
No, Dad, he's grooming him.
Grooming him, eh?
Ooh, Homer, there's a bird on your head.
I know. He's grooming me. Elephant breath.
Have you heard of Krishna consciousness?
This part is the crazy man.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Right, that'll work.
A new and better life awaits you on our distant home planet, Listonia.
Makes sense.
We're having a free get acquainted session at our resort this weekend.
How much is this free resort weekend?
It's free.
And when is this weekend?
It's this weekend.
And how much does it cost?
It's free.
I see. And when is it?
It's this weekend.
And what are you charging for this free weekend?
Come on, Dad, the team's arriving.
It's free, right? Greetings, good man. Might I trouble you for a drink?
Oh, get out of here, Homer.
Homer? Who is Homer? My name is Guy Incognito. Oh my god, this man is my exact double. That dog has a puffy tail. Here, Puff. Here, Puff.
The newspaper was founded by Johnny Newspaper Seed, a 14-year-old boy who roamed America founding newspapers.
If he's so smart, how come he's dead? I am Evil Homer.
Oh, my name is Mr. Burns. I believe you have a letter for me.
Okay, Mr. Burns. What's your first name?
I don't know.
8:58. First time I've ever been early for work. Except for all those daylight savings days. Lousy farmers. To start, press any key. Where's the any key? I see Esk, Catarrh, and Pickup. There doesn't seem to be any key. Whew. All this computer hacking is making me thirsty. I think I'll order a tab. Oh, no time for that now. The computer's starting. Hey, buddy, you gonna throw your car down? Let me in because I'm a big fat guy and I can't go anywhere because you're gonna eat the poison gas. I mean, it's gonna be really poison. Everybody's gonna be dead, especially me. No! Nice big man. Hey, buddy, you gonna let me in your car?
Take anything you want, man. Take it all.
But he's not some kind of food-crazed maniac.
Oh, the raspberry. Inspector Concho, please move the right. Grab a handrail. Out of my way! I'm here for your safety.
God bless that man.
What? Yeah! Come on, stupid tube!
Looks like there's a jam in Delta Sector.
Oh, it's too big to be human. We'll send down a few kids. That should dislodge it.
Roger.
Eyewitnesses estimate the man's weight at somewhere between 400 and 500 pounds.
And now on the lighter side of the news, and I use the term loosely.
All night eating cheese?
I think I'm blind.
Wish me luck, Dad. Just don't screw up like you always do.
Wow, he's dynamite! What's his name again?
That's what I get for having faith in you. What a voice! Young Homer's going to make me a millionaire!
Hey, my voice just changed. Oh, night, when Christ was born.
Who'd have thought Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father?
New audience, I now proclaim this new burger for sale. Oh, Lord save me.
It's the Krusty Burglar!
Oh my God, he's stealing all the burgers! Why, you little...
It's all just an act.
Stop! He's already dead!
Hello, Homer. I'm Dr. Steve. Please lie down. Wake up, Homer.
Less yakking, more cracking.
Now, Homer, we don't actually crack backs. It's merely an adjustment. Okay, you're going to hear a loud cracking sound. There we go.
Hey, it feels a little better.
I thought it might. Now, I'll need to see you 3 times a week for, many years.
Dr. Steve didn't do anything.
Did you do those exercises he gave you?
Yeah, right. I did them while you were studying. Oh.
Dad, are you okay?
Yeah. In fact, I feel fantastic. And as you can see, the unique dents in my invention perfectly match the contours of the human vertebrates. Patent pending.
You can fix my sciatica?
I don't know what that is, so I'm going to say yes. Now go limp.
I'm limp.
1, 2, better not sue.
Hey, it worked. My searing leg pain is now a gentle numbness.
Next.
Yes, my car seems to have broken down, and I was wondering if I could use your... Oh, that's a pushing motion.
Simpson, you're not a licensed chiropractor, and you're stealing patients from me and Dr. Steffi.
We'd like to invest in your spinal adjustment device.
You might be able to do business.
We'll need to take some photographs.
Hey, where are you going with that?
They're chiropractors.
Anyway, good morning and welcome to the Auto Hub Show, used cars. I just thought that was an interesting video. Special thank you to our sponsors, Retail Resilient, White Glove Performance Group, and of course, John Latka from Automotive Business Solutions. We're going to be doing some quick videos in the future, but we didn't have time to do that for this week. So basically, I'm just going to talk a little bit about Retail Resilient, Facebook and Instagram School. Reach out to Gail for questions there. And then we have a few book recommendations. So if you're a car person, you probably know who Clarkson is on cars. The Art of Running a Car Dealership by Max Ahan, who's actually been on the show before. And then one that I wasn't familiar with from JF Knott, How to Master the Art of Selling Cars from Zero to Hero. Obviously, we're continuing our movie recommendations. These are a few if you're in the car business. Used Cars, a classic, Cadillac Man. And then, of course, The Goods, which is one for our younger audience members. Pretty funny movie as well. Jeff, go ahead with our disclaimer.
Okie dokie. Thanks. Good morning, everybody. Appreciate you joining us. I found quite a very interesting thing on our video there with Homer. And the topic today is how to avoid getting screwed on used cars. And Homer's the king of screwing himself on everything. But our disclaimer is the views and opinions shared today are those of our guests, don't necessarily reflect the official policy or the position of Auto Hub Show or Ian Nethercott or Jeff Polo. Just so you know, please read our disclaimer on our website if you have any questions. And moving right along, as I wait for our tech person. So our show today is how not to get screwed on used cars, and starring either Ian Nethercott and myself. And with us today, we have a very, very good panel, as we always do, of people. And we will start with introducing themselves as Brent Seavey, who's the Director of Sales and Business Development, North America Accelerate. He is a student and a fan of Elon Musk and has watched SNL from this week about 62 times. And has actually proven himself that he can recharge electric cars by driving them into the pond themselves. Brent, can you take a moment to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Brent Seavey. I helped to set up the used car department at Tesla. We built it into a pretty big monster before I left. It was a good time. I got to bring to bear a lot of my experience in 16 years out in the regular car business. And just looking forward to the show today. Looking forward to seeing if I can make a contribution or at least not screw anything up.
We appreciate you joining us. You were on the EV show not long ago, and we really appreciate it. Had some great feedback on you there. Secondly, we have Tommy Gibbs, who all I can tell you is the used car guru at Thomas Gibbs Training in that very tiny little place called Treasure Island, Florida. And Tommy, can you take a moment to introduce yourself? And thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, I was a new car dealer for over 20 years and had some crappy franchises early on. And so we really focused on used cars. And for the last 20 years, I've been speaking on leadership skills in used cars at 20 groups, conventions, and dealer groups. And so my focus is on used cars primarily, but everything has an element of leadership skills in it.
So I take it that you tell dealers how to not to screw themselves on used cars.
Pretty much so. Yeah.
And next we have Danny Zaslavsky. Hopefully I got that right, Danny, who's
the
GM of Country Hill Motors and managing partner of VinQ in Kansas City, Missouri. Danny, tell us about yourself. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, you bet. Been in the car business my whole life since I was 14. Own a car dealership here in Kansas City. We second generation, 37-year-old company. We are strictly pre-owned and try to have a lot of fun doing it. We sell literally everything from Hondas and Toyotas to Ferraris and Bentleys every once in a while as well. Have some on the lot. And then about 3 or 4 years ago now, I bought a software company and had a vision to unify a lot of the solutions that were out there called VinQ. And so my partner and I, Chris Hoke, based out of Kansas City here, have a national product that does inventory management and syndication and acquisition and market pricing and vehicle acquisition on the private party side as well. Excited to talk about that today.
Perfect. That's great. Thanks again. And speaking of private parties, last but not least, we have, I always say that every show, our last guest is we have Olivier Vincent, who's the CEO of AutoZen, which is a company designed to connect the private individuals and dealers to help source source used cars right now just up here, but soon maybe take over the world. Olivier, please introduce yourself, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Jeff. And yes, indeed, we are a very new company. It's still a tiny little pink baby. It's beautiful, but still very young. Although we raised a few $1 million to accelerate. And we're in operations now. We are still in our trial phase, but we've sold dozens of vehicles already on the platform. Yeah, as Jeff was saying, we're here to help connect consumers and dealers, try to create a very smooth and easy category where consumers can sell their cars into dealers. Our mission is to help dealers source more of the right cars, is really the summary here. And at the same time, for consumers, bring them a solution that they don't have today, where they can really optimize time, effort, and value in one place. We call that sell your car from your sofa. So probably too long an introduction already, but very happy to be on the show.
Perfect. Thank you very much. There's actually a dealer group up here that used to have a website called Buy Your Car in Your Underwear. So I think there's a similar thing. So thank you very much. Thanks everybody for joining us. And we'll just jump right into this thing. Again, the title of the show is How to Avoid Getting Screwed on Used Cars. And with the market now, the used car market, of course, is blown wide open, partially because of pent-up demand, partially because of new car supply issues. We hear that Toyota actually is stopping all production for 3 months, which will upset George Saragu there. But tell me something. How do dealers actually avoid getting screwed on used cars? And let's just start with Tommy, because he tends to be the king of this. Tommy, you're on mute.
Everybody right now is, paying a lot of money for any used car they get. And so that's kind of a given, but I think you still have to, and they're able to sell it, make a profit. But I think you still have to have good disciplines in place. And so to think you can just keep a car forever and keep trying to knock a home run on it, you've got to be a little smart in that. You got to have some daily disciplines. And in my software product, we're always talking about setting the life cycle in every car, and every car doesn't deserve the same shelf life. And so we try to manage that and get dealers to pay attention to their cars at certain points along the way. And I'm just afraid that a lot of people, it's kind of like winning the lottery. People who win the lottery go broke at some point. And right now what's going on, because of the law of supply and demand, because of the pandemic, we sort of won the lottery. Even if a dealer is not a great operator, they're doing really, really well right now, and they can sell anything and everything. But that doesn't mean they should stop their fundamental disciplines. They really have to have some processes in place. And if they do that and operate in a pretty short window, they're not going to get screwed. They're not going to get messed up. So my advice would be, have good processes in place and have the discipline stay behind them, and they'll be just fine.
Okay, that's a very good point. I know myself watching the auctions every day now and seeing what's going on. It's not like the old days and everybody was gathered in a great big room and you could look at somebody in their eyes and see that they wanted something. The auctioneers, literally knew by their body language. But these days you see them online auctions and you just see click, click, click. And speak of auctions, so Olivier, because yours is kind of an auction, what's your opinion? How do people avoid getting screwed in used cars?
Yeah, it's actually a very deep problem with so many dimensions. But in our case, we're focusing on sourcing cars from consumers directly, and we're focusing on cars that are not too old and that have passed our inspection. And that's probably the number one filter as far as we're concerned is. When you deal with consumer cars, you don't have a lot of recourse once a car is yours if something was really a problem. And so this inspection is crucial. And the lead competition, so to speak, for us in terms of quality of inspection is your sales manager who's going to do on the floor a quick walk around of that trade-in and drive it around the block. And so you can catch a lot. And these sales managers are very experts, and they'll have a very good ear and a very good nose, and they'll notice things that don't necessarily need the deep inspection, but still it's a pretty light inspection that they're making. So at the risk of being a little salesy, we focus on a 150-point inspection we do at the consumer's place before the car reaches auction, and that way we really filter out a lot of the material that probably shouldn't make it to in front of the eyes of a dealer. So that's one of the ways, definitely, to not getting screwed is to have that opportunity.
Perfect. I'm actually going to jump right to Brent here because One thing with the advent of the connected car world, you're seeing mainline dealers jumping into and just raising their hand for Teslas and whatever comes. And it reminds me of a story here that hit the news of a mainline dealer that took a Tesla Model 3 in on trade, and I think we mentioned this before. And they promoted it as having autopilot, and the person that originally bought the car subscribed to autopilot by accident, canceled his subscription. While he still owned the car, they didn't take it off the car, but as soon as the title changed, it came off the car, and they're in the middle of a whole big thing in the news about how they won't pay for the autopilot. So Brent, take it away.
Well, yeah, Tesla does have quite a reach into their cars. That's kind of a one-off story, but not entirely unusual to have happened. The biggest issue that we find with dealers selling used Teslas is the fact they really don't have a decent warranty product for them. And so at XCare, we came out with a warranty that works around Tesla's service procedure, so that you can comfortably sell a warranty to a client that's buying a used Tesla or any used EV. Now, I have to be very specific. It has to be a used EV, not a plug-in hybrid, but a straight-up EV. So Mustang Mach-E, Nissan Leaf, etc. You can feel confident selling them the car knowing that they can get a warranty. Now, you can sign up as an affiliate dealer as long as you're in the U.S. Unfortunately, we're not in Canada yet. But if you are a U.S. dealer, you can sign up as an affiliate dealer and sell XCare yourself. If you one-off them every now and again when you happen to trip over one as a trade-in, you can just send them to XCare. I put our website there, and and just let them get a quote. We can always wrap it into the finance. We can send you an invoice essentially, and you can wrap it into the finance if you want. So we are here to help. But these are highly technical cars. One of the things you're really going to have to do is have at least one person on the floor that's a dedicated EV nerd. Who will learn EVs, because EV customers are very, very anal, very informed, super informed, a lot of them. And as soon as they get some BS answer back that somebody's making up, like Homer with the whole, I don't know the answer to it, so yeah, it should work. They're going to flee you. And there are dealerships now that are dedicated to selling just EVs. So the competition is actually dialing up a great deal. And just hyper educated group, a lot of them. Now you get your odd idiot that thinks it takes gas, but for the most part, if you're reselling a Tesla, the person that's calling you probably knows more about it than you do. So get a dedicated nerd on the floor, hopefully a prior Tesla employee or somebody that's just been around the scene for a long time, and get plugged into XCare so that you can sell them.
Perfect, thank you. And Danny, of course, you live and breathe used cars. This is your hopefully main source of income, although VinQ might take over here and be available in your local Tesla anytime. Tell us your position on this.
How to not get screwed? Well, so I want to go back to what Tommy said earlier. He was saying about being prepared. There's a couple things that we're doing on the ground that we've been doing now for like 3 or 5 years that's more important now than ever. So in our own DMSs, right, we are tracking channels of how we're buying our used cars. So we started assigning numbers to them: 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 is an auction purchase, 2 is a trade, 3 is a dealer network purchase, and 4 is a private party acquisition. And then we started saying, okay, how quickly do those vehicles churn? How quickly do those vehicles? What's the gross profit per copy on front and back on those vehicles? And then we started assigning incentives to our team and building a team to be able to pay attention to those areas. And something we've been doing for a long time in Kansas City, we buy from other car dealers because we go in and I call it WAR, wholesale auction retail. We buy everything. If it's ugly, we wholesale it. If it's too good, we wholesale it. If it's ugly, we auction it. If it's good for our retail lot, we retail it. But the important part of that is, like right now, with things getting better and us selling so many cars, what Tommy was talking about, discipline. It's now's the time to increase your pack. Take some of that money, put it into a reserve, and then when grosses start coming down because you're deep in some stuff, take it and spread it across some inventory so that you can not take punches in a couple of months. That's the kind of stuff that I think is going to create some discipline and allow you to continue to grow. We have sitting right next to me, we have a team of private party acquisition specialists who are on the ground buying cars from individuals every single day. And in our best months, we're buying 100 to 120 vehicles a month. And so those grosses are $1,200 to $1,700 higher than an auction purchase, and they churn in 22 days. So it's like, but you got to be looking at your inventory. And then, I'm sorry, you have to be looking at where you're spending your time. And we can talk about this later a little bit, but then you get into really cool data of like inbound and outbound, and how many touches, opportunities, connections, appointments, and sales do you do from a private party acquisition side, and what does it take, whether they're coming to you or if you're going to them. So I imagine Oliver spent some time thinking about this kind of stuff, and it's a net lift of $150,000 to $200,000 a month in revenue. So that's how you not get screwed.
Wow. That works good. That works good. Thank you so much, Ian.
Yeah, with the rapid rise of alternative fuel vehicles, what effect will they have in the market, and how do mainline dealers adapt to those used vehicles coming to the market? And maybe we could start with Danny, since we finished with him. You're probably dealing with this already, I would guess.
You're asking me, how do we deal with electric vehicles? So I'm going to take
alternative. So it could be plug-ins,
sure.
It could be hydrogen, it could be different things, right?
Yeah, well, so I'm gonna touch on this later, but it starts with people. I think you gotta have the right people on your team. If you've got curmudgeon-y people that don't have any enthusiasm or excitement or desire on your team, then your intentions drive kind of everything that you do. So you're gonna suck at it. So you gotta have the right people in your store that are gonna get excited about this kind of stuff. And then also you got to have some of the technology to support it, obviously. But we're starting to track how many alternative fuel vehicles we sell here at Country Hill, therefore what we go after, because it's part of part of how our team gets paid, is based on the acquisition strategy. How quick does it churn? How quick and how much does it gross? So it's beneficial for us to understand that. But I think how you get into this space effectively, I think you start with your org chart, and you take a look at your business and see if you've got the people on your team that can digitally advertise for them, and therefore attract those buyers and go after those vehicles. Because if you're doing it by accident and cool, I sold an electric car, it's not a way to scale.
Cool. Tommy, did you have any thoughts on this? Can't hear you. You're on mute. Still on mute.
He's spot on with the people thing. It's kind of like if you think about a new car dealership that also has used cars. If you don't have people that are really interested in selling used cars and are new car minded, your used car department is not going to do very well. I think it's a very similar thing. You got to have people that are enthusiastic about the EV. So that's spot on.
Fantastic. Brent?
Well, what we've found a lot of times is that at mainline dealerships, people come in on the used Tesla Model S, and Chucky, who doesn't understand EVs, says, you really don't want that. Let me show you this S-Class over here. It's only got 35,000 miles. You don't have to hassle to put in charging in your garage. You can get gasoline everywhere. You can drive 500 miles without stopping, blah, 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 blah. And Chucky sells them the used Model S. Well, that might be good if you're looking for a hook car, if you're looking for something to bring people in. But unfortunately, what ends up happening is Chucky has success flipping somebody to an S-Class, and he's going to flip somebody to an Audi A8, and then sooner or later that Model S is going to sit there and grow hair on the tires, and it's going to go no place. And part of that, honestly, falls back on the dealers as well. I know we like to say, that the salespeople need to know what they're doing, but the dealership needs to encourage that as well. They need to start educating people on electric vehicles. They need to educate people on how easy it is now to charge them. There are so many great apps out there. ChargePoint, Venta. There's dozens of apps now to show you where to charge your vehicle. And if it's a used Tesla, they can plug in at over 25,000 superchargers in the United States right now. When I started at Tesla, there was literally about 100 of them back in 2015. There are 25,000 individual stalls now where you can plug in a Tesla. So my God, man, just get educated. Listen, Model 3 is the fastest turning used car in the United States today. Let that sink in. Less than 30 days. They're sitting on lots sometimes for literally a day, and they're popping. Those cars are selling like stupid, and they're selling for more than retail. They're selling for 105% of retail because Tesla's already sold out Q2, and we're only what, a few weeks in. So, honest to God, man, you get a couple of nerds on the floor and you teach them, and you will just run over the competition. And yeah, and by the way, I am available to train your staff.
But the big question I want to know about training and staff is how do they answer the question, how much is an oil change?
You know what? The funny thing is, I had a customer of mine actually bought the Audi e-tron, and at 10,000 miles, he got an alert to change his oil. And so he called into the service department. I kid you not. He called into the service department. Like, yeah, this is kind of a known issue with some legacy programming we didn't take out when we basically plugged in our service indicators. So yeah, he tried to change his oil. It didn't work. You can throw in free catalytic converters though for life on a Tesla for life. That's a costly piece of equipment. You should know.
Olivier?
Yeah, I could jump in. I mean, Vancouver is, as I'm sure Jan and Jeff know as well, it's a very active market for EV, especially Teslas, really a lot of them around. We have all kind of cars in the family cell here, but we're in our second Tesla as well, so I'm happen to be a big fan. But yes, our dealers, our buyer network, we have about over 100 rooftops now, and they're all getting up to speed on the platform, but they still stay away from electric because they don't really know how to service them and how to resell them. There is the horror story that you mentioned earlier about the transferability of some of these software options, which I think is easy to resolve once you know what the problem is. But still, how do you put your own dealer warranty on top of a vehicle which you're not allowed or able to service? And so we have to pass on plenty of these electric cars where people are going to upgrade, and because our buyers are not looking into it. So any solution that comes out in the market to help dealers manage service and put some level of warranties on and to resell electric vehicles will be very interesting. So whatever Brian said earlier, I find very interesting in that context.
Well, there's actually now you can find people that used to work in Tesla service that'll work at your store, and Tesla will sell them everything but a main battery pack. So if you just put out an ad and say, listen, we're looking for prior techs from Tesla, we're paying top dollar, blah, blah, blah. I mean, at first, the hard thing about that is if you're one off and two off and you don't want to have an EV mechanic, right? Because what he's going to do is sit around and wait for you to get another Tesla, So you have to find somebody that's reasonably versed in Tesla, that's also, a ICE car mechanic who you can count on to basically pick up those cars as you bring them in. But there are plenty of EV garages. There's the electric garage down in Orlando. There's several down in SoCal right now. So there are some disaffected mechanics that have left Tesla that are perfectly conversant in fixing them. So if you can find that kind of hybrid grease monkey, and I say that with affection because I love guys that turn a wrench. Plug them into your dealership. And of course, the end of that, the end of that road could be you've got your odd person that thinks a Tesla never breaks. God bless you, buy the car. And then, tell you what, though, we wouldn't be growing 4x month over month at XCare if these things never broke. So at the end of the day, I mean, anything a man builds will break, right? But sadly, we're not in Canada yet. But for the U.S., we're definitely we're growing like crazy. These cars have their own wear profile. Basically, it's not a friction wear profile so much as you're moving a hell of a lot of electrons back and forth, and you're changing it from DC to AC and back, and it's just it creates its own wear profile.
Danny, did you have any thoughts there? I noticed you were unmicing, so I wondered if you had any thoughts.
Me?
Yeah.
I was laughing when Brent was talking about some of the Tesla stuff because I remember when they started showing up at the auction and guys and gals couldn't differentiate between a 60 or a 75 or a 90. They thought the car was bigger, and I was cleaning up buying them because they just thought it was a number on the back, and so the values were all over the place. So it's those days are over. I knew that wouldn't last very long, but it just kind of goes to the point. Either get in the race or get out of the race, but you got to know what's going on.
Jeff, question?
I do have to say that.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Brent.
I do have to say that the reality here is that everybody and their pony is having electric vehicles coming out. All the mainstream manufacturers, plus Rivian, plus And my personal favorite, the Fisker Ocean's coming. I see you there, Brent. The reality is, if you don't start getting people on board right now that understand this stuff, you're going to be left way behind. But moving along, you know, we all know about the chip situation. We've talked about this everywhere. We've talked about the values and the prices that reflect of that. You know, what's the biggest risk you got here of following this market and just raising your hand to buy these things at ridiculous, not just EVs, everything, you know, pickup trucks at $5,000 over new car MSRP. So actually, because Danny's the guy that says how much he buys so good, we're going to hit you up, Danny.
Tell me, what's the question? So I heard what's going on, but what's the specific question?
I'm testing you. No, I'm just kidding. How big is your risk by following the market trends and following the values of these used cars that are skyrocketing?
Okay, so I've actually got a pretty strong opinion here. So I think guys have been following like MMR numbers for way too long, wholesale transaction numbers, and I think that's a lagging indicator, especially right now. It's not even a 30-day lagging indicator; it's a 60-day lagging indicator, because what ends up happening is when consumers feel a pain because the prices are going up, they don't like start doing something before they feel the pain. They start doing something when they feel the pain. Dealers do the exact same thing. Auctions do the same thing. So then what happens is we're looking at data that's outdated, and we're making either acquisition or selling decisions off of that, which I think is a mistake. So in VinQ, we believe in efficiency, not velocity. So I want to be able to turn and gross, have my cake and eat it too. So one of the ways we do that is with retail transaction data. So look at what these vehicles are leaving the internet for, like yesterday, right? And instead of looking at book values lagging indicator, wholesale values lagging indicator, live transactions, that's not even fair either. I know things are turning faster and bringing more money, but still look at what they're leaving the internet for, because then you can identify where to focus your attention. That combined with competitor data, where we look at, okay, well, what are dealers around? Not market demand. Market demand says what they're clicking on. Cool. But what's leaving the internet at other people's stores by class and by price range? So segments of minivans or trucks or whatever. Those two things are what drive our acquisition decisions, and I can prove over and over work really, really well, which is why we turn them into software and adapt it within car dealerships and see a net lift. So I would strongly encourage looking at those numbers versus bidding a car and imagining, well, this is what it's going for the auction. I think that's a way to get in trouble.
Terrific. Tommy, I'll hit you with that same question. It's the biggest risk there. But I actually like you to address the comment made by Brent about Tucker coming out with an EV. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Tommy, the big risk for following the market, the wholesale market.
Yeah, I don't know what else you can do though. I mean, you've got to follow it, but you got to follow it. I keep going back to this. You got to follow the market with discipline. If you're going to get some cars, you got to, you're going to have to get in there and play the game. But you can't go in there and just kill yourself. I had a conversation this weekend with Dale Pollock, and we were talking about, Dale's a good personal friend, and I would suspect that most of y'all know who he is. But Dale and I were talking, and they get to see a lot of data. And he was saying that the immediate, most recent data is saying that cars are not appreciating as fast as they have been. But the reality is this market that we're in is not going to change anytime soon. It's going to take 2 or 3 years for this to all sort out. It's not going to change. And so we really have to change our thinking about how we view cars and how long we can hold them and not hold them and the profit we're going to make. I mean, it's just a whole different game that some of us old school guys about turn and burn. It doesn't work that way exactly anymore. But I think you have to be in the market. You have to play the game. You certainly have to amp up how you buy cars from consumers. If you're not aggressively doing that, you should be. The problem I see with dealers when they try to buy cars from the consumer is they don't have a good process when the consumer shows up. In other words, if you go to CarMax to buy a car, it's a really nice process. It works really, really well. Go to a car dealership, a normal new car dealer, and try to sell them your car. And at best, the salesman is going to say, well, let me get a manager. Now, at CarMax, the salesman gives the customer the full routine. So I'm simply saying a couple of things. A, you're going to have to continue to buy cars. You'll probably have to continue to buy them at the auction where you get your head knocked off. But as long as you're turning and making money, okay, go for it. but do it with discipline. And you have to amp up how you buy cars from the public. You really have to get better at doing that and have better processes in place.
Well, speaking of buying vehicles from the public, that just segues perfectly for Olivier, because that's your business model. How are you finding that? Are you finding that your transaction prices from your public sellers are mirroring that of what the wholesale market is?
It's an interesting situation. It's an exciting situation because it's very fluid, and almost every 2 weeks, things have changed. But I'll start by saying, we do feel frustration on the buyer side, on the dealer side, because it's clearly a seller's market, and it's going to remain as such for probably the end of the year. And vehicles will come to the auction, and the sellers are well educated nowadays. They've made some research. They certainly ask for more transparency, but they start with more data in their hands. And so, sometimes, if not often, the valuation, the minimum valuation required is outside of the bounds of what our buyers have coming from these other valuation tools. As Danny was saying, they may be lagging a month or more into the value of these cars. And so they have to rapidly educate themselves into how far do they want to go. You do not get to be a GSM, especially in a franchise dealer group, if you don't have a deep DNA into the discipline on the pricing. And so they find themselves at times losing deals where they were ready to spend more, and they should have spent more, but they were just prevented to go there because of their habits. So it's a long intro to say that it's a little painful for indeed the well-trained, deep DNA buyers to understand the fluidity of the marketplace. And we also find that very often, maybe more with franchise dealers and with independents, but they manage with margins versus managing with dollars. And you have to be ready nowadays to let go of margins. You can probably recoup the increased buying price by higher selling price. You still have a better offer than that other private person selling a car, because the car comes out with a warranty and all the security of your brand. So you can still price up, growing up with the market, but still you're going to have to be letting go of some of the margins. And so what do you trade margin for? Velocity or bigger dollars, bigger volumes. And so we're finding ourselves right now, when we debrief with buyers, spending a fair amount of time talking about, look at it from a dollar standpoint and incremental dollars to your company, rather than just a percentage of margin, because you're not going to like what's going to happen in the next 6 months, most likely on a pure margin standpoint.
Terrific. Perfect. So we'll ask Brent the same question, but you already mentioned that, Tesla, as an example, has sold out their Model 3s for this quarter. But what's the risk on following that market, especially on the EV?
One of the risks is that Tesla changes things rather capriciously, right? It's not like a model year to model year car company. Autopilot 1, Autopilot 2, they came out in October, October 1st, and they don't change the model until January 1st. So you'll have cars that are a 2015 that are pre-October 1st, 2015 that don't have autopilot on them, and then post-October 1st that do have autopilot on them, and I'm sorry, 2014. And so you've got this kind of company that just comes out with new updates, right in the middle of the spring. They come out now with an updated 2021 Model S and Model X that'll be out this summer. Well, right now they're not even selling them, but if you got one traded in that's a January or February that doesn't have the new dash, that doesn't have the new yoke, steering wheel, all the rest of this. So you got to be careful that you're not only following model year, but that you're actually got somebody, again, that nerd that knows Tesla, to make sure that you don't make a mistake. Now, that having been said, I mean, these are margin cases sometimes. I mean, you can get in smart and get out smart, but really having somebody that knows what they're talking about on your floor, and being willing to listen to them as a buyer, being willing to go, talk to Frank, who's your EV guy, and say, listen, I've got this car. Oh yeah, that's definitely, look at the VIN on that. That's an early 2015. You definitely don't want to get too deep in that because it doesn't have the sensors and this and that. And you'll be like, oh, okay, thanks, Frank. And then you go back and you're like, yeah, pull $2,000 out of our bid and hit that thing. So it just honestly is a little bit of a minefield. But at the end of the day, rest assured, the person that's looking at that car probably knows more about it than you do anyways. So the best thing to do is just, by the time you've got it, have somebody like Frank on the floor that knows his stuff, to sell it. And you'd be surprised. You'll move it. You'll make a profit. These are definitely grossing cars.
What about cars that are, let's just say a Tesla that's close to the battery warranty being up from the manufacturer? What's the view of the customer selling you that car in terms of what the worth is, and how does that go to the dealer? Like, if there's an 8-year warranty and it's like, pretty much expired, what is the value of that car in real dollars?
Well, the beautiful thing about the battery and the drive motor is that they're designed for a serviceable life of 15 years or 500,000 miles. So the idea is, by the 8-year warranty end, if that car hasn't had a significant issue with the main battery pack or the drive motor, chances are it's going to ride out its serviceable lifetime. But when you think about it, if something's at the 8-year point at 100,000 miles, 85, 90,000 miles, whatever, somebody buying that is fully aware that they're buying a $120,000 car for 35 grand or 32 grand. They come into it with this back knowledge. But we can warranty used Teslas all the way out to start miles of 100,000, 125,000 miles, depending on which one. So you can always give them that kind of warm fuzzy that, yes, you can put a warranty on this car. Yes, you can warranty it for 3 or 4 years.
And would that also be true, like with these Nissan Leafs and some of these older cars that are now getting to be like, what are they on 3rd generation now? So you got like a Leaf now that's cheap, but what's the option for that used car dealer?
Well, the problem with Leaf, I'll speak to that briefly because I'm glad you brought that up, is that they had no real thermal management on their battery. So the battery pack was basically air cooled. And the problem with air cooling a battery pack is that over time, it definitely it fatigues the batteries. It fatigues the cells. So a used Leaf, buyer beware caveat emptor. I personally myself, I wouldn't buy an older used Leaf just because their battery packs aren't as robust. Tesla has heating and cooling of their batteries, active heating and cooling, so they keep them at an optimal operating temperature, not only when they're operating, but also when they're charging. So the cells can take a lot more charge and discharge cycles. So at the end of the day, I would feel really, really comfortable diving into a bunch of used Teslas. Used Leafs, not so much, unless you're a Nissan dealer.
So in other words, what you're saying is you can take them or leave them.
You could take them. I'd leave them.
So Danny, I mean, obviously you deal with a lot of used vehicles, and we're talking about KPIs and screw ups in it. When you're looking at a lot of used vehicles, obviously you are really dialed in with KPIs and numbers. What do you think are the KPIs they're going to take dealers over the next 18 to 24 months with this chip problem?
So Olivier talked about this earlier about how this isn't going to change anytime soon. But if you're, again, I'm a numbers guy, so if you're tracking foundationally, I think I think Olivia's leaving some money on the table, because we're seeing a lot of in the private party acquisition side, we're getting 800 to 1,000 ops a month buying 120, 150 vehicles. But on top of that, there's about 15% that are trading. So we're not leading with that. That's really important, because that's what consumers expect, because we know that consumers expect us to just immediately start talking about the trade instead of just the acquisition, which I think Tommy was talking about, how dealers are not used to performing or operating as an acquisition center. That was a big eye opener for us when we started operating that way. But then the other things that comes with that, like the referral programs, the service business, all of the marketing channels that we do in order to get those acquisitions is a really, really big deal. So I don't own a new car dealership. I only own a used car dealership, and we try to be really efficient and effective. And instead of opening up another store, I bought a software company. So I'm trying to have a slightly different reach. But I don't think that this is changing anytime soon, and I think I think the ceiling's a new floor.
Interesting. Tommy, on the KPI front, obviously you had some comments earlier about MMR, and I know Danny had some comments about retail transaction data. What do you think the evolution of KPIs is, and the dealers can look at to not hold the bag, basically, not be left holding it?
Well, as I look at that question, it says, reference inventory, lead generation, or staff, and what are the KPIs to use to avoid holding the bag? Oh, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But I think that all those things play a big role in terms of inventory. The one thing I think that everybody has to realize is every used car is different, and you can't manage them all alike, and the data can't tell you everything you need to know. You're the one standing there looking at the car. We go back to the old saying in the car business: every used car must stand on its own. But we don't always follow that method. We oftentimes want to treat them all alike. It is based on what we see in the data, but no, you're still looking at that car. It's an individual car. So I think managing the inventory is critical, and certainly the staff and the staff that we bring in now, they're a different group of people, and it's going to require even greater effort on our part, I think, to train them and to simplify the business. And they're a much different mindset than the guys and gals we hired 10, 15 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago. So I think that you cannot let up on your training. Somebody kind of alluded to this. It may have been Danny. I'm not sure. Somebody kind of alluded to this concept. But what happens in the car business is that when times get really tough, we really dial it down. And when I say dial it down, we dial it down to really basic things, and we focus on the basics, and we get really good at it because we tighten everything up. As business gets better and better, we get sloppier and sloppier. And so that's kind of always been the thorn in their side. But right now, while business is good, look, every dealer you talk to, I haven't talked to anybody that hadn't basically said this. We're making record profits. We've never made so much money. Well, this is a time they should be investing in making themselves better. And so moving forward, we should be investing in our people, investing in our processes, investing in technology, whatever, because we've got the money to do it. And so my tip is really, focus on the inventory and focus on the people, and you're going to be just fine.
Fantastic. Brent?
Yes, sir.
What do you think on the KPIs and avoiding being stuck with the bag of, you know what?
Well, it's always a kind of a crystal ball game, isn't it? I like what Danny said about trying to get ahead of things. MMR is mainly last month's reality, and mainly month-old reality. And that's the truth. You have to stay ahead of things, and I like what Tommy said too. I mean, you have to really stay drilled down during the good times. The worst thing in the world is to be fat, dumb, and happy, and next month, skinny, broke, and friggin' miserable because you let everybody get loose. You can't be cashing your checks and putting one heel up on the side of the building and having a smoke because you just had a couple of crushes. And you've got to continually work on your staff, continually work on your game, continually educate your staff. Listen, time enough to lean, time enough to clean, and time enough to sit around and have a smoke is time enough to go out and talk to your people. Talk about the last deal they penciled. Talk about, what's coming around the bend. Talk about the stuff that you just bought at auction that you're bringing in. Take them for a lot walk. I mean, we lose sight of a lot of these fundamentals because when we get fat, dumb, and happy. And you cannot. This is a dynamic business that changes by the minute. Danny sounds like he's got the crystal ball, or at least he's reaching for it. And
reaching for it for sure.
There you go. Yeah, and you know what? Honest to God, I mean, I that's refreshing to hear that because so many people just fall back on MMR, and I think it's a lazy man's. Again, I'm not denigrating anybody, but it's kind of a lazy thing because you're basically reading the stock market from a month ago, trying to figure out what stock to pick today. MMR lags really bad. I mean, it's a good kind of long arc indicator, but it definitely isn't how you should be buying your cars today if you're looking to turn and burn quick.
Thanks. We had a question from the audience here. Should dealers remain focused on quick recon, turn in this market? Why or why not? Maybe we can ask Danny since he's in the retail side.
Sure. Yeah. So I want to add also to something that Tommy was talking about and Brent alluded to. Before I answer that question, sorry, I'm going to do one of those political things where I insert something nobody asked me. So I go back to, I touched on something earlier. It was think about your packs, about putting an extra $200 per car. I've been doing this. My dad started it 30 years ago, and I continue to do it. We call it a soft pack, where we take money and put it into a spot. We can always give it back to the team as gross, and they get paid. But as vehicles come in, as we get heavy, so we can equalize. I do not have a floor plan. I never have. I don't want a floor plan because I want to be able to be disciplined and move in the inventory. So it's our own reality of how quickly we want to move this inventory. But if you can then take that money and spread it across the stuff that gets heavy. Right now, I think that's a way to look at some strategy for the future. So then, and then the other piece of it was look at your org charts. One of the best decisions we made here is hire a dev person on the team, and we hired a digital person on the team, because if we're going to compete in a digital retailing world, even if we're not fully bought in or acting as digital retailers yet, it's not a switch, right? You're not just going to wake up tomorrow and then have all the solutions. You might have a lot of bills from vendors, but you're not going to have what is right for your team, and you're going to be making a lot of compromises. So invest in people, look at your org chart. And that actually segues nicely into talking about reconditioning. So days to market is important, right? But good recon is important. And so one of the things that we did within VinQ is have staging areas. I used to fight this fight a long time ago of like, do I put the car online before it's ready for retail, while it's still in service, or do I wait until after it's fully through, and then are deals falling off the pending board, or are they actually selling? And so we met in the middle, and what we did is we have a staging area within the system that allows vehicles to get online with new arrival photos, a single photo. We set expectations properly. We have 2 types of certifications that allow consumers to be, I believe, clear as kind. So be clear if you're giving them a 90-day 100% or a 30-day 15%, depending on the price range of the vehicle. And then and set proper expectations up front when you're selling the vehicle if it's still in service. But you have to have those digital staging areas online, and the right, I guess, categories within the DMS or wherever you're managing this stuff, so that the team knows. Otherwise, customer comes in and goes, "Hey, I'd like to see that car online. Let me go find it." And then they're checking service, they're checking in the back lot, checking on the side lot. Maybe somebody's got the keys. I mean, it's just craziness, right? And it's no way to manage money or inventory. So yes, I do think reconditioning is important. I carry every brand, and so I don't have the luxury of stocking everything on the shelf. When I need something, I got to wait. I got to get it, right? But I think it starts with communication, because right now scarcity can work to your advantage, and it's okay to wait a few days, but you got to be able to market it and communicate it right.
Great answer. Does anyone else want to comment on that? Tommy, maybe?
I would, yeah. We have a recon tool, and we get to see a lot of things because we do. We're looking at a lot of data. And the dealers who pay attention to recon and track it and know what stage each car is in, they certainly improve their situation. And, the main thing it does is it holds everybody accountable for making sure things are happening in a timely manner and they're right. And with all the notes and information that's in there, it really does create accountability. And the sales department likes it because they can point to the service department that the service department is holding them back. They need the car on the line. But the service department can also point to the fact, hey, we told you this car needed X, Y, Z, and you refused it. So when the crap hits the fan, 60 days down the road when the customer comes back. So tracking recon and paying attention to recon is really critical. You can't fix a problem if you don't know where the problem is, and that's why recon is so important.
Brent or Olivier, you have any thoughts?
I had a bit of a thought, but it's more connected to the previous topic on how quickly things move, right? I think it's important we recognize that in many ways our industry has been a little too stubbornly low tech for too long, and we needed a pandemic to point at all the areas that could be optimized. And I definitely, for one, will recognize all the opportunities, and I think everybody touched on these opportunities at the moment to improve on how we do business. And when things become normal, I think there will be much higher efficiency out of there. But so many vectors that are disrupting the industry at the moment. We talked about valuation and using different techniques like MMR, but you also have EV that is transforming, and more than just technology in the cars. You've got plenty of new digital or new sales channels coming up. Clearly, e-commerce is a very big player now. So you've got all these vectors that are shaking the foundation of the industry, and it can give you a little bit of vertigo at times. Sometimes maybe be a little scared of how quickly it's moving. And so what we recognize in all the dealers we're working with, there is a big premium at the moment for the ones that are a bit more, focusing on agility and maybe curiosity as well. And we find some dealers are being a little bit more daring I was on the topic of recon. You know, we were hearing from a very major dealer in Canada just a week ago, as used to sell, you know, the full OEM warranty, but also their own warranties when they don't have the OEM warranty with them. But they really open a third category where there will be a much lighter recon, and they realize that they rotate this inventory extremely fast. These were cars that maybe in the past they would not sell because of the reputation of their brand, but they've now recognized that they have, with lighter, faster recon, they created a new category, which is proving to be extremely profitable for them. And so again, you know, curiosity, a bit of creativity and daringness is seems to go a long way in these changing times.
Yeah. Danny, you had some thoughts there?
Yes, let me unmute. Okay, so two things. One thing that we've been doing for a while that's been really awesome for us. So recon and inventory management, for some reason, are like church and state sometimes. And mechanics put information in there that sometimes shouldn't be public facing. And I think, and so one of the things that we did to clean up, I believe, our team believes that in order to make gross and turn, you have to be able to communicate anything of value above and beyond price. So if you can do that, then you're going to retain a customer and you're going to be able to sell more cars. And so recon is one of those intangibles that you can communicate to the consumer. So put it on the photos, put it in the vehicle description, get it out there. Well, Olivier, I think if you're not doing this, you should start insert it into your software company. But when we're doing private party acquisition, we do an interview up front when we're having the conversation with the customer about acquiring the vehicle, but then we're doing an exit interview too. And you can go to YouTube and type in "sell to Country Home Motors." You'll see all of our exit interviews. We record them. But one of the things that we started doing, which I think is fun, is we give the customer a piece of paper that says, "Can you give us a few lines of text on here that says what you're proud about the vehicle that you'd like the next owner to know?" And then they'll put, you know, it was an awesome car. I loved it. It took my family to school and doctor's appointments, and it served us well. We did little maintenance to it, and it was awesome. And then we take that, give it to our inventory guy, Dante, and guess where it goes? In the vehicle description on the VDP when we put it online. And so as a consumer, getting to read a note from the previous owner, I think it's pretty cool.
Brett?
You know, that is pretty cool. I mean,
I love that.
People love that personal story, that third party kind of thing. Of course, if they wrote, "Well, hell, I had this thing for 125,000 miles and all I did was one oil change," you probably don't know that. This car is great. But no, you know, anytime you've got kind of a third party thing like that, I oftentimes point people to, you know, Tesla Motors Club forum. I point them to Trustpilot. I say, listen, don't take my word for it. Check out our reviews. Check out what people say about us. So I like that. Anytime you've got third party, it definitely rings truer than anything you could say. And oftentimes, if you've got that kind of info, hell, spells, throw it up there. Absolutely. If they want to redact their service bills and give them to you, so they take their name and address out of it, but just, you know, give you awesome. We've got, you know, 4 years worth of service on this thing. This guy took awesome care of this car. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that is a key differentiator for a lot of people.
Tommy, did you have any thoughts there?
No more thoughts on that.
Nope. Okay. Jeff, did you have any final thoughts or final questions in sensitive of time?
Well, by all means, I do. I always have thoughts and questions. It's great stuff, and thank you all for sharing. It's a big risk, you know. This business can be literally. I've always said you've learned, you get in the car business and you've learned how to load the gun, how to point the gun, but somebody's got to tell you how to put the safety on or turn it off, and sometimes you shoot yourself in the foot. And I'm really glad, Brent, you're aboard, because you give us a whole new viewpoint on things. That world is completely different. And actually, I wanted to mention something. Ian and I have been talking about a dealer locally who about a year ago bought one of those Toyota Mirais. And they paid last year, your Canadian dollars, they were wholesaling all 6 of them for $20,000. And now today they've got it on for $14,500. Nobody wants to buy it. It's been in stock a year. Nice inventory management. And they can actually get more money than they've got it advertised at by running it at auction. But because they're thinking the old way, which is I can't lose money, they're sitting on the car. And it's a big risk. But that was just an analogy. But gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining us. Thanks our guest. We really appreciate it. We learned let's try this again. We learned a lot.
Yes,
and
we did.
as we always do every week. So thank you for being here. Thanks to our sponsors for joining us, to John and Barry are on a board. And thank you again. Have a great week and sell more used cars.
Episode will be up live later today.
Be blessed, gentlemen.
Thank you all.
Bye.